Welcome, everybody, to Podcasts and Players, and it's been a while. It's been busy. I've been meaning to get back into this. I've been working on a lot of different stuff lately, but we're starting to pick up here on the productivity end of things, and I'm very pleased to have someone who I've been meaning to have on for a while now. You might know them from YouTube. They are known for drawing stuff. They are known for playing the viola. And they have a lot of cool videos on their YouTube channel. Please give it up for Tori Draw Stuff.
Hello. That is me. Hi.
Welcome.
Thank you for having me on the podcast.
Yeah, thanks for being on. I kind of cut you off. Like, we were having a conversation just before we started, and I sort of was like, well, let's save it for the podcast. So let's pick up right there. You said that you were working on a project recently.
So outside of YouTube and animation and art, which I love very, very much, I currently, I'm not going to disclose what conservatory, but I attend Conservatory for viola performance. And recently there was a bit of time where we were kind of instead of having a super long university winter break, they kind of gave us a bit of time to do an individual project. Most people's were like, I'm gonna learn this instrument, or I'm gonna do this ensemble. And I went, okay, I'm gonna give myself a month to record a Deltarune viola cover EP and publish it. So I did that, and I haven't promoted it that much on the art channel just because I got busy recently. But I released an EP.
It's released?
It is. I didn't talk about it because I was kind of scared too.
Okay. I'm my jaw dropped when you said a Deltarune EP. I'm like, that's a lot of songs in a short time.
It was basically originally I got the idea for the project in November because we had to declare our projects in December or something like that. So I got someone to sponsor it, faculty wise. So I got the okay to actually do this. So I went off campus for a month, and I had a really cool lesson with one guy who I didn't know knew as much about recording as he did. His name is Nathan Schramm. In case there's anybody who knows the tiny ass world of viola, because it is such a small world. But if somebody knows, they know.
Yo, Nathan Schramm? I love Nathan Schramm.
His music's actually great. Yeah, no, fun thing is that that might be actually more relevant to the podcast is his quartet they played for the Red Dead Redemption soundtrack, but they actually were mocapped into Red Dead Redemption. So if you've played Red Dead Redemption, you probably have seen him in the game at some, I don't know. That's a weird fun fact.
Cool.
But yeah, I had this lesson with this guy, and he gave me some really good pointers on the project. And then months later, I picked 4 tracks and did full string layering, just by ear, and also some piano arrangements for help. And I just I kind of hermited myself away and did that for a month. Because the whole goal of the project was if I released it, then I succeeded. And if I didn't, I learned. And yeah, I went through CD Baby as my distributor because there was a whole research process about that. Yep. And it's out. It's called Violarune. A Deltarune viola cover EP.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
I'm really glad that you got to announce that here.
Yeah, no, I didn't expect it to be the place to announce it, but I'm kind of happy it is. Because you do music, so people, who are probably watching this podcast have an interest in music, and hey, we're both doing it. We're both doing music, so why the hell not?
Yeah, I mean, I thought I would be releasing music last year. I went with DistroKid because I got a deal. I was I got in for $20 for the whole year. I was like, nice. Oh, sweet. That means I can put whatever I want out. But then I realized all I wanted to do was make cover songs to put out.
Yeah.
And then I looked at the price for that, what I'd have to pay to the original artist. I'm like, that's so much money.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. That whole thing. I actually was going to go with DistroKid for a while, but then the difference between DistroKid and CD Baby, which are the two most accessible like you give them your stuff and you pay them and they put it out on streaming services. It's probably the most too well known. streaming or distributors out there. DistroKid handles it themselves, but you have to pay DistroKid, and also they charge like a monthly or a yearly thing. But you can release as much as you want for like one thing. But CD Baby is you pay per release, and you have to handle the distributing through a different website, which I did. And it was called like Easy Song, or not distributing through a different website. No, the licensing through a different website. My bad. Of course they do the
world of music publishing is marvelous and complex.
No, it is. It's a whole bunch of words that seem super scary that I was like terrified of, but now I'm like, they're long words and they're not that bad. But there was this website called Easy Song Licensing, which I thought was a scam. Because it's called Easy Song Licensing. I went on Reddit forums and I was like, is this a real thing? Because I feel like they're gonna take my money and run. But no, apparently they aren't. I paid for a digital download license, and then long story short, I'm not gonna ever try to sound like uppity and throw jargon around because I hate that. But you know, I went through them, and it was just cheaper because this is like a one and done project, and hopefully I'll release stuff in the future. I just don't know when. So personally, I'm not, because I'm, doing schoolwork and friggin' classical music and contemporary music BS. I don't know how much I'm gonna actually be releasing, so it was just better to go with. But both are solid. But also,
I mean, it depends on, if you're an independent music artist, kind of depends on what what you need, what your needs are, right?
Mm-hmm. And luckily,
DistroKid is by no means bad. It's just, it isn't for everybody when there's might be a better alternative. Exactly. Sorry to cut you off.
Yeah, no, I kind of cut you off there, so you're good. But yeah, DistroKid is good if you're releasing a bunch of stuff like frequently. It's cheaper, but if you're not doing it super frequently, CD Baby is cheaper. They're both good, and I somehow found the reason why I even got the okay on the project is because in November I went on a rabbit hole to figure out what company like holds the right to the Deltarune OST, because Deltarune, as you may know, is not finished yet. It's only has 2 chapters out, and when I went to the website, it didn't say who the music publisher was, and I was like, oh great, so I have to kind of find it. So I went to like the 2016 Undertale Fanworks blog, which happened to have an email on it. And then I was like, I do not think I'm going to get a response. It's been how many years? Which I hate thinking about, but it's been like, oh my gosh.
I actually, I viscerally hate.
I hate how long I feel when I say that. My girlfriend and I, like, she never played Undertale. So we've been watching the old Steam Train run through with Ross and Barry. Yes.
And seeing how old those videos are makes me really upset. It doesn't feel like it was that long ago, and yet it was very long ago.
And then there was like that 5-year anniversary orchestra concert. I was like, this is 5 years old. What? Can we take a take
past that now? It's like the fact that it still feels like 2020.
It does.
I actually forgot at some point this like past month, I was like sitting down and I forgot what year it was.
Yeah. I think the only reason why I haven't been in the exact same boat is because like 2020 to 2021 was basically when I was auditioning for Conservatory. So I was just in like audition hell for like all of that time. So now I'm like, I am stable, but also like, where did time go? This feels fake. The world's not real. This is
I think what sucks, and I kind of noticed this, is that like when you're a kid, like a lot of people say that's a relative time. Like, oh, you haven't lived that long, so a little bit of time seems like forever. But I would say it's actually like a memory thing.
Yeah.
Like when you're a kid, you don't really remember a lot of stuff. Like trying to remember stuff that happened when I was even like a teenager is kind of hard. Mm-hmm. Remembering stuff that happened when I was 20 years old is super easy. So like I could put myself back into where I was in like 2011 relatively easy. And that feels weird because it was so long ago and yet I still remember it clearly. I think that's why it feels like time is passing faster.
Oh my gosh. I from my perspective, same exact thing. But it's like, because with college auditions, it was, you're working on like 4 or 5 pieces for some people do it for like the summer before auditions. I was on all those works for like a year, like a full year of just playing these 5 things over and over and over and practicing and recording. And because COVID was a thing, auditions were not live. They were all kinds of wacky. It was like I had some on Zoom, which like sucked because, okay, I have to represent how I am as a musician through a Zoom call where the sound's distorted and you can watch back my tape. Like,
yeah.
So there was that, but like, it felt like I was doing so much work, but now it just feels like a blur.
Yeah, well, when you're super busy, especially because like you wake up, you're working and doing stuff, and then you go to bed, and so it's like, how do you mark time in that?
But it was like it was for such a long time. Like I thought I would be able to recall everything so much clearer, but like it's just like, whoa.
For our not musically inclined listeners, people who like music maybe, but aren't like musicians themselves or in that world, can you explain what conservatory is for like a classical?
Absolutely. So you know how college is college, and you go there and you study like, okay, I want to do this for my living. I'm going to study English, or I'm going to be a history major or something like that. Well, conservatory is a college primarily for musicians, mainly of classical, but there are also like schools of jazz that also are under the label of conservatory. It's basically just a fancy word that means you just go to music school. Some places you have to take like your normal college classes at the campus nearby. Sometimes it's the same kind of campus, but it's like, for myself, for example, I take one normal college class per semester that's required, and then everything else is like just music classes and practicing in ensembles. And it's just like, it just drills you for being a musician. But then there's also like schools of music that aren't that. It's just basically saying like, oh, okay, so do you study music at a college with a school of music that's like a different department, or do you go to a school specifically for it? They're both valid. All of them have different levels of like seriousness and all that jazz, but typically for a school of music or conservatory, you have to audition to get in. So on top of like your normal college application process, you have to, like all the essays, all your grades, all your stuff from high school aside, you have to audition and go through pre-screen rounds and learn your repertoire. So
that makes sense.
It's a lot, like, but it makes sense.
Yeah. If you were running a school like that, like you need to make sure your students have a baseline of knowledge to build on. If they don't even have like for example, I am not a performer. Like I do not have the dexterity and the mental skills to play piano or like
me neither on that one, and I'm in piano class.
But I mean, I'm so bad at like, I can't even play chopsticks. Like I'm really not good at performing in the moment. I think the best instrument I can play is ukulele, because there's like 5 chords, maybe 6 that you have to learn. And then you just kind of combine them in different ways.
Yeah.
Once you kind of do that, you're good. Exactly. But I never learned how to strum well. I don't know how to do like finger picking melody type stuff. Like I'm not good at really any of that stuff. However,
composing,
however, I'm a composer mostly. Yeah. So like, it's like a different aspect of it where it's like, I like to put stuff together. I can use my ear to kind of pick apart songs. Like I understand concepts that musicians would understand, but like, actually, I was going to ask you, do you focus primarily on the performance aspect? Like they want you to read, oh, here's some sheet music you've never seen before, play it flawlessly, like that type of stuff?
Yeah, it's kind of so what I'm doing, like major, I am viola performance. So basically, like I am primarily here for playing. However, they are super encouraging here of other projects and stuff like that. Like the actual making of music is never like, oh no, you shouldn't do that, you're a performer, because that's not true. And also in conservatory,
that's kind of weird.
Yeah, no, if they told you, okay, only do scales and you're never gonna make anything ever, like what? Okay, so what's improv then? What's improvisatory music? Like, am I breaking all the rules there? But no, I just realized I forgot to mention this. There are composition majors as well. So the moment that you were like, I'm not a performer, but I'm a composer, I'm like, that is like, I don't want if there's any other composer like listening to this podcast, don't ever think of yourself as like lesser than a performer, because you're still a musician. It's just different. And like, like, I respect it, because as much as, like, I can do silly little Deltarune arrangements for that thing and play it, coming up with a fully original piece that doesn't sound like stock music, I don't think I can do. Like, I can do my music theory homework, but that's like 1 chord, 5 chord. Did you do an extra thing? Cool, your assignment's done. It's not actually like music. It's a worksheet. So
yeah, it can be kind of tough. I guess I do have a bit of imposter syndrome sometimes, where I'm like, well, since I can't really play an instrument, can I call myself a musician? But like,
you can absolutely call yourself a musician.
Right, yeah, like my brain knows that, but internally I'm like, ugh. You know, but I mean, the best way to like channel that in a positive sense is to just like, it gives me a respect for musicians and performers, rather, because you are able to produce music on the fly. I have to go into a thing and like set it up. Like, I have to like find the right instrument sound fonts. I have to build it from scratch, which is, I mean, essentially, like, it is a more advanced and convenient version of just writing sheet music. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, but also sheet music notation, like, I'm just gonna get this out of the way real quick, because technically, like, viola is a classical musical instrument, and some people are like, Western notation is the only way music exists. It absolutely is not the only way music exists. Like, inputting it into like MIDI or like, oh my gosh, like digital audio interface, all sorts of other things, it's just as valid. It's just a different way of thinking. Like, so, or even like guitar, like lead sheets, jazz lead sheets,
like tabs.
Like, I had to do my first ever assignment on campus. I was given a Van Halen guitar solo, and I had to notate it down from tabs into Western notation, and that like broke my brain. But I think
it's important to like, for people to understand like the role of like sheet music and composition, bass clefs, treble clefs, quarter notes, all that stuff. Like, that is a consistent language that you can learn to help you play in orchestral ensemble type stuff.
Yeah.
And it's really helpful for keeping everyone on the same page, everyone being like sort of understanding, reading the same language. When you are an independent artist, or even in like a band, you kind of create your own language together.
Exactly.
Like, whatever works, you know, like, I don't know if Metallica could read sheet music, but I kind of get the sense that what they do is just they sort of jam out together, and then they like kind of note the notes, I guess, like, oh, D, F, blah, blah, blah. This is a cool riff. And then they piece together that stuff into songs very much haphazardly, is what it feels like to me. I don't know if any of them are like classically trained. It feels like
typically when like a rock artist, because funnily enough, even as much as I've been like viola, I actually do have an experience with rock music. I went to rock string camp for 2 years. And that's rock like one of the weirdest. Camp? I basically went to camp rock. Like, but for violins and like cellos.
Oh, so it was sort of like covering rock songs with classical instruments?
Yeah, but then every so often, like, they had like jazz violinists come in that would teach us how things work, or like we learned how to do extended techniques like chopping and just like different styles of playing. Like, one guy, oh my gosh, I'm forgetting his name, but he's like known for creating like how guitar strumming is, but with a violin bow. And he like taught us how to do that, and like that's like one technique I still don't have after all this time. But like, yeah, no, I definitely don't think, like, because typically when like a rock artist, whether like it's like modern rock or like classic rock or whatever, most of the time if they're classically trained, people are like, oh, Elton John was classically trained because he was a pianist, and like, you know, you don't need to be classically trained to make music though.
Right.
Like, it can be absolutely great without being like, yes, this is a 5/7 chord in A major. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, it is. It can be very elitist to assume that you need to use sheet music. It's more just for practicality's sake. Like, if you're going to play in an orchestra, you kind of need to know that language.
Like, if you're giving it to a section of 12 people, like, they got to all know how to play it the same.
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. And like the pros can do exactly that sort of thing that I mentioned earlier, where you can give them sheet music that they've never seen, and it's like reading out loud to them. Like, they are so in tune with their instrument that they can just play it as it is on the sheet, which is why that's like a really cool, you know, like that is like if your goal, I don't know about you, Tori, but if like someone's goal is to be a concert performer for whatever instrument that they're like dedicating themselves to, like that is sort of the pinnacle. You want to be that good if you're going to like play in an orchestra.
Exactly. Like you have to be able to just like pick it up like that, especially like because eventually I'm not gonna like talk about a whole bunch of information on this, just not to dox myself, but like orchestra definitely is like a very good end goal because the auditioning for it is like cutthroat for good ensembles. And cutthroat is in like, you know, you go through multiple rounds and everyone's playing the same excerpts and it's just like, it's not a personal thing. But you do just like, they pick like the best of the best for a good ensemble. And then you get, yay, health insurance. Like, yeah. Oh, geez. Insurance. Oh my God. But yeah, like, it's very cool. It's very intense, but very, very cool. And I just realized there's been a bunch of tangents about music, but like,
well, no, this is the point. You know, people need to get to know
the Tori draw
Tori
stuff.
Plays viola.
That has been Tori plays viola for the past 6 months.
Well, if you want, we can switch gears a bit.
Yeah, let's
talking
do
about
that.
your YouTube channel. Like, how did that start?
Oh my gosh, yeah. So YouTube originally, I had my channel like forever. My YouTube channel, I think I made it in like. This is before like the Tori Draw Stuff band had been on it, but I've been using the same channel for like a whole bunch of stuff since probably like 6th grade, middle school.
Ooh,
and I made weekly speed paint videos forever. And like, I know like obviously like YouTube is like, you know, views or people are like, oh, the views, all the subs, all this stuff for like 5 years. Or maybe not 5 years, maybe like 4 years. If I got 20 views on a video, that was like really good. Like, that was like my goal number that I like vividly remember being like 20 views. Let's get to 20 views. And then I'd like hit 20 views sometimes. Because looking back, I was a middle schooler recording off of a Kindle Fire taped to a lamp, traditional art speed paint videos edited in apps that I have on my phone, right. Like Kindle. Because I wasn't an iPad kid. I was not an iPad baby. But I had a Kindle Fire in like middle school. So that's what I did. And then like somewhere in high school, probably like, I think it was sophomore year, I started playing D&D like earlier that year with some people for the first time, and I was really, really liking it. And at one point, we had like a funny moment happen, and I was trying to get used to digital art for the first time in my life. Like, I'd just gotten a digital tablet, and I was like, I want to do digital art. And like, I didn't know how tablets worked for like ever. And then I was like, maybe if I make a video or something with digital art, then I'll like get better at it. And then I was like, wait, I have a funny D&D story, and I have digital art. And this really cool person named Dingo Doodles just uploaded their first ever video. Oh my gosh, this is so cool. And then I went on like a rabbit hole of like Puffin Forest and Zbashu and Dingo and Joe Cat and like all like, you know, like, and then eventually found like Jess Jackdaw. And then eventually, like, you know, other channels as well, like, found the D&D animation circle that had started popping up. And then I was like, I'm going to try making a D&D story time. So that's why my first ever story time is not very good quality because I was tiny and getting used to digital art for the first time. But for like the first time ever, my video got more than 20 views. And I was like, what?
Yeah, I remember actually discovering your channel because like what I would do back in like, was it late 2018, maybe early 2019, like I might go on my phone on the YouTube app while I'm like in bed getting ready to go to sleep. I'm like, you know what, let's look up D&D story and let's just ignore all the people I already am familiar with and just see if I can find someone I don't recognize. And like I discovered a lot of people that way, and yours was one. I remember, I think you must have like privated this video or something, but there was a video of you and a friend, and I think you were doing a speed paint, and your friend, and you were at like 700 subscribers at this point, and Your friend was just like, yeah, we're gonna get you to, she's going to blow up, this is gonna take off, blah blah blah. And I was like, yo,
I think that may have been like a 400 subscriber special, because at the time I was like, oh my god, I've had like 20 subscribers forever, and now I'm at 400. What? And that was my very good friend Lauren, who I'm name dropping because I know she's going to watch this. I love her to bits, but she totally was that was the vibe. And then afterwards, because hold on, I'm gonna pause. I didn't know that's how you found my channel, though. That's awesome.
Oh yeah. I mean, I found a lot of people that way, and then for Inktober 2019, I tried to draw all the people that I had discovered who were still making stuff.
Oh my gosh, I remember that. That was so sweet. When I saw I was on that, I was like, what the hell? I was like, this is so cool, but why? And like, it was awesome. Thank you, though.
Yeah, no worries.
Yeah.
And it was like right after that I decided to do the podcast, because I was like, well, let's start talking to people.
Also, like, I saw your podcast be a thing for like forever. But I remember at one point you said just like, hey, shoot me a DM if you want to be on it. And then I was like, do I get should I do that? And then I was like, maybe I'll wait. And then when you DM'd me, I was like, thank God. I was like, okay, so I don't have to be like 2 years late rolling up being like, knock, knock. So my channel's been dead for however many months. Like, you got a podcast? But no, so I'm happy to be here because I watched a little bit of your podcast, and it's very good vibes. Like,
I try to keep it that way.
The vibes are so good.
It's kind of tough, and it's funny too because we were talking about music distribution. Podcast distribution is actually very similar. Like, I found that out recently, that you could go to like Spotify has a service called Anchor.fm. And they will take care of all that stuff for you. The problem with that is that you don't own rights to merchandise. They post it out of their own account. So basically, they're giving you a cut instead of you giving them a cut. Essentially, yeah. So it's like you're kind of giving them ownership over your stuff.
That makes sense of why there's so many people that have like suddenly sprung up podcasts that are only on Spotify.
And it can get you views if you're like consistent. Like, it can be really good at getting viewership, but not good at like turning a profit. So like people are going into it to be podcasters. It's not, you should do it yourself. It's a lot more work to do that, but you can just essentially, you get an RSS feed. So you pay some other service to just host it. And then they create a feed, like little like copied link thing, and then you can just give that feed to all these other like distributors like Apple Podcasts and stuff, and then they approve or disapprove of your thing. And so if they approve, then it goes up. If not, then you just keep going to different places. It's a bit of a hunt to find all of them and give them the RSS feed.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yeah, no, podcasting is like a whole different can of worms. Like, for a while ago I recorded, like, it's not a real podcast, but with FlyingFoxGirl and two of our very good friends.
I wanted to talk about that, actually.
Oh, it's me and Cade? Oh.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I also invited Cade to be a guest. Because I figured, look, if I'm going to have you on, I have to have Cade on.
We are like an accidental dynamic duo at this point.
I kind of want to know more about how that friendship got started. I've been kind of curious for a while. Strange.
Oh my gosh, yeah. So, I didn't know Cade was also going to be a person on the podcast. We both been very busy, but that's very cool. That makes me happy. But yeah. So originally, I found when my channel was blowing up after like the second video I uploaded was the Battle Royale video, which is the one that most people have seen. Looking back at it, from where I was drawing wise. It was good. Looking back, not the best video quality. I will die on that hill. But at the same time, like, it's the video that kind of blew up, and I wouldn't have found certain people without it. Around that time, I'd like made a few other videos. I found FlyingFoxGirl's channel, And it was just, I was looking kind of in the same way you were talking about earlier. I was looking for smaller D&D YouTubers because while my channel was still blowing up, I was like, I want to try to shout out some people in my community tab because people are actually paying attention to that right now. Like, why not? So I think at one point I found Cade's channel and I was like, this is like really good quality content. Like, why you need more, you need more attention.
Subs?
Why
no number?
Why no view, why no sub? You need. So that's what I basically was thinking. And I watched like all your videos and I was like, this is really cool stuff. So I think I shared it on my community tab and said something online like, please go check this out. And I have no idea how many people actually went through that community tab or not. But I know that Cade saw that and then was like, what? Because apparently Cade had found my channel previously, not through the Battle Royale video. Apparently the first video that Cade found off my channel was the snail hunt I did with some friends for fun, that's like one of my favorite videos I've ever edited on my channel. It is a stupid little video that I totally recorded on impulse with like, I didn't even have like a good camera with me. I had a random iPod Touch that just happened to be in my bag and it had battery on it. So I was like, I'm going to record with this. We looked for snails. I put the most like stupid things in it as I could at the time. And that was Cade's first impression of me was a snail hunt and D&D content. And I don't know why she started following me after that. But then, after I chatted out her video, apparently at the end of her next video, there was just randomly at the end of it, I'm watching through, I'm like, this is such a cute video. I love this. And then the end of it goes, also shout out to the Tori Draws stuff for shouting me out in her video. And I was like, what? You put this in your, what? So like after that, I was like, okay, that's the first time that's ever happened in my life. Apparently we were both kind of just like fans of each other's content. And I joined Cade's Discord server, which I think is, I don't know if it's available to join right now or not, because sometimes there's like apparently at one point the like link to it was like privated or something. I'm not entirely sure on that. All I know is that I'm still in it and I don't have the rights. I'm not a mod, but I joined it. And at the time she had like just made it and there was a big community. And I was like, wow, this is so cool. And then Cade was like, why you're here? And I'm like, I am. What am I doing here? And then, like, I joined VC at one point, and I talked to people, and then people were like, you're Tori Draw stuff. And I'm like, that is certainly a thing. I guess I'm that. And somewhere along the lines, I got DM'd by somebody who I will name drop as Kyle, because for reasons. I got a random message from this guy named Kyle, and he was like, hey, we were going to run a server D&D game and you just joined the server and our last person just dropped out. Would you be interested? And I was like, well, the pandemic just started up. Sure. And originally I think I said I was too busy, but then like I didn't know how Discord works, so I deleted my message and sent a new one, not knowing that like you totally can see when someone deletes a message. So I resent that message. I joined a D&D game and Cade was there. And since then, we've just been buds. Like, yeah.
The rest is history.
The rest is history. So many stupid jokes. Yeah. Because outside of like D&D content, like we've been buds online for like, well, I guess since the pandemic started. So 2 years now or something.
Yeah.
It's crazy to think about.
Ironclad friendships were formed at the beginning of the pandemic,
yeah!
I noticed.
Oh my gosh. You, Dieter Inc., Eldritch, Cheeky, like that gang, like the Timber gang. I'm like, oh my gosh, like, yeah, it's a solid gang.
It's a lot of fun. And like, it's interesting to, I mean, I've talked about it a little bit, but like, it's something that still blows my mind is making really close friends, even like a best friend, and I'm like 30, so that's not normal. Typically that doesn't happen. You usually are only losing friends over time. You don't typically make new friends. So like that happening, it was like, wow, there's still hope.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Like, yeah. Like I originally didn't think, because, Discord, you mentioned Discord and people are like, that doesn't have a good connotation to it because it's the internet. But at the same time, like, the happy family of, like, just the circles that have just, like, popped up for, like, certain groups of D&D animators. Like, that's just, you can't find that anywhere else. Like, bro,
you really can't.
I don't know.
And
like,
I think we are in a fortunate position, too, because, like, the people that are sort of at the forefront, I suppose, are, like, the big ones. Joe Cat and Dingo and Z and Puffin, especially Dingo, are all very, like, friendly and welcoming to like,
oh my God,
D&D animators. So a lot of people who got into animation and stuff because of them met them and were like, wow, they're actually, like, nice. It's like, yeah, of course.
Oh my gosh, it was, I did not, like, I was kind of in a similar boat when originally, like, I had first, like, talked to, like, Dingo. I was like, what? Like, I don't want to ever say starstruck, but I'm on a freaking podcast, so I'm going to say it. Like, when I first joined a call and Dingo was there, I was like, I don't belong here. It's like, imposter syndrome to the max. Like, I'm like, Dingo makes, like, good content with, like, funny jokes and, like, good animation. So why am I here?
Yeah.
Seriously, she's so nice. And everyone that's, like, I've interacted with in the D&D animation community is so nice.
Right.
Like,
It's in fact, it's so nice that when I hear, like, I've been using TikTok more often, like, before bed and stuff. I don't actually, like, really put anything out there. I just sort of, like, scroll. But, like, when I get into, like, D&D talk, some people will be like, yeah, well, there's a lot of drama in the D&D community right now. And I'm like, where is that? I'm not seeing it.
I'm like, that's not the D&D YouTube community.
Because, like, our community is fine. No, there's no drama, really. So, like...
Yeah, no, there was some TikTok drama. Like, it's also really funny because I've seen the TikTok, like, D&D talk circle. And, like, I like the content. I don't know any of them. But it's really funny seeing that and then being like, so this is the TikTok circle. And I'm in the YouTube circle, which, like, content creators probably have less following on YouTube than TikTok just because of how TikTok is, where it's like you upload, like, you can just hit follow and keep scrolling, and, like, that algorithm's just different than YouTube. Or YouTube's trying to change it, and it's like, no, can I have long content back, please? Because that's a whole thing. But, like, I don't know, it's interesting to see. Because it's like, I'm happy with the YouTube animation D&D stuff. Like, there hasn't been much drama, and anything that's happened is, like, it hasn't left, like, us. It hasn't been like, this is my call-out post.
Watch this be like us eating our own words when in a month
this, like,
from
I get
now,
canceled for something.
Yeah, somebody gets outed for some bullshit. That's gonna suck.
If you can totally clip that. If for some reason I get canceled.
God.
Which, like,
just put, like, take that clip with, like, really ominous music and a bunch of reverb and edit it together just, like, in black and white.
Directed by, like, Robert, like, I'm forgetting the
obviously, like, I hope that they're, like, people are as good as they seem.
Yes, I hope so too. Otherwise, my heart's gonna hurt a little bit.
There was that thing. I don't know if you heard about. Like, Joe Cat was on his stream, and he also has already released videos talking about it. But I remember when he, like, before all this stuff came out about Arcadum, I think is their name, and he was telling us in our community, like, yeah, I was on this guy's stream and I really didn't like the vibe. I didn't really care for him, but I can't really say anything because I don't want to start any drama. And then all this stuff came out, and he's like, all right, well, here's what happened. I already didn't like the guy, but now it's even way worse than it could have been.
Oh my God, yeah. He vibe checked that.
Yeah.
He really did. He really just went, this isn't so happy friendly, is it?
Yeah. Let's transition then from the drama stuff to the more fun
Not me
things.
Drinking tea while we're talking about drama. I just realized that, like, subconsciously.
Have you been spilling the tea?
I finished my cup of black tea right when I finished talking about it. That's a little funny.
It's very poetic.
This is a little poetic, yeah.
Let's go into I mean, you've already told several stories on your channel already.
I have.
Would you like to share maybe a story that you might not get around to animating, but you want to, like, talk about? Oh my
God, that'd be wonderful. Yeah. Oh my gosh, I'd love to tell a funny little story about D&D. Gosh, I have to think. real quick. So recently, one game that I've been playing since the pandemic started. This is the game that I play with Cade. We've called it Midlands just because that's the name of the area.
The continent it took place on. This. That's the area, but it's not like
that is literally just like the name of the land. And we tried kind of go with like a party name at some point. It didn't work. It never stuck. We did not like it. And then we were like, this is just the Midlands group now because we're lazy. But yeah, there's that game. And the reason why I had name dropped a guy named Kyle earlier is because he's the DM for that game, which is why I was like, name drop.
Calling him out.
But yeah. Oh my gosh. I have to think of like one moment in particular. Oh! I might make a video about this, but I think it's good for me to talk about it here.
Sure.
So this was a while ago, like in real life. It was around the beginning of the campaign. We must have been like, I don't know, like 12 sessions in or something like that. The party was already formed. It was like 5 of us. And we were doing some sort of quest where we had to like, it was kind of like a fetch quest because we were getting through like 3 introductory quests before it was really like, here's the open world, go. It wasn't roadie or anything, but we just like we're taking a fetch quest as our first option. And somewhere along the lines, like we deliver like this thing, and we're on our way back, and then the DM's like, hey guys, could you roll a funny little D100 to see what happens? You know, just see what events happen in the night, or like while we're taking a rest or something. I can't remember if it was night or day, but I just know that one of us rolled a percentile die and rolled a 1.
Oh.
And we were like, that's really funny. I wonder what could happen. And our DM was just like, oh no, this is going to be bad. It's all good D&D stories start. But we woke up. I think I have to like think back if I ever make a video on this, but long story short, like we recover from resting to realize that we are kidnapped on a cart. And we're like, oh, that's great. And there was like these dragon people and kobolds driving this cart. And somewhere along the lines, we're trying to like either break out or trying to talk. Like none of us know Draconic at this point. And I think one of us did. And they basically like, hey, you were trespassing on like our boss's yard. We were going to need to like turn you in. And then our one friend who does Draconic just like, hey guys, we're like kind of in like bad territory right now. We're trespassing. And it's like, oh, splendid. So we're kidnapped on a cart, and we end up not trying to break out or resist. We just kind of go with it because we just can't leave.
Also,
tried everything possible.
A part of you out of game's got to be curious what's in the store.
Exactly. Yeah, we were also just like, you know, if we die, we die. Because at this point, we didn't really have
It's like, listen, everyone.
Too many attachments.
I know that, like, our characters probably are getting the heebie-jeebies about this. But, like, we all saw that one on the D100. Like, we got to see it through.
What's going to happen? We have to. Exactly. So we go along, and we're brought to, like, this cave. But it's not like a normal cave. It's like there's this mountain, and there's a cave in it. And we're like, oh, this is... I think we know what's going to happen. This isn't gonna be good, but let's just see what happens. We get brought in by these silly little guard guys that are not actually silly little. I'm just calling them that. And we're in an ancient red dragon's lair. And we're like, oh, not just like a normal red dragon. Like this is like an ancient red dragon. It's time we don't know this. We just see big red dragon and we're like, that's not good. Like, are we gonna die? I think we're gonna die, guys. I think, killed for trespassing. It's been a good campaign. We go up, though.
So you were in a dungeon with a dragon.
Yeah, we were in a dungeon with a dragon, basically. But it wasn't really it wasn't a dungeon. It was more of, like, this guy's house. We were kind of just in his house. Mm-hmm. He's sitting there. He's like, oh, are you guys from the Deus Guild? Which was the guild we had, like, joined in the beginning of the game. And we're like, yeah, technically. Why do you ask? And then he's like, oh, my gosh. This is so great. I asked for Deus Guild members to come help me out with some chores. This is so great. You guys are just coming here for the fetch quest I sent out, right? We're like, no. Like liars. Or no, we were like, yes, like liars.
Oh,
we
internally
were like, no, my bad. We were like, yes, like a liar, because we were going to die. And then he's like, oh, That's great. You guys are just gonna give me your guys' names real quick, just so I have evidence in case you betray me or anything. It's no big deal or anything. And we're like, what? We give this guy our names, and I know Ori, and specifically Ori is my silly little cleric character in that game. There's a whole bunch of backstory stuff with her. She gave her name, and then he was like, "That's not your name, honey," and she's like, "What?" So that led on to a whole nother can of worms. Oof. But all of our names got engraved on like this wall he had. And he's like, I just know, if you mess up, I have your name and I can track your location. And we're like, that's splendid, honestly, to hear about. Like, that's making my day right now. So we go on these little fetch quests, and we ended up doing chores for an ancient red dragon. And his name was like Infinaro. And he could, apparently, that's a stat, there's like the creature was taken for like 3.5 or something. The stats are like crazy stupid, so I'm really glad we didn't just like fight him. And he's not a good person. Like, he's an ancient red dragon, but he didn't like kill us on sight because he was like, oh, you're doing my chores. This is great. Clear out the attic and clear out the basement. And we're like, oh, okay, that can't be that hard. Except the attic was infiltrated with dire pigeons. Which were like these giant pigeons. They were trying to attack us. We didn't want to attack them. But we had to deal with them. It actually wasn't as graphic though, because it was kind of on a cliff, and with wild magic, they accidentally got turned into potted plants. So wasn't as intense as it could have been.
Could have been worse.
Could have been a lot worse. And then the basement, there was like holes in this like dirt cave area, and we're like, what the heck is this? I think at one point we found we found a manticore. We didn't know it was dead. Turns out it was dead. The real thing we were getting out of the basement was like this I don't remember the name of the creature, but it was like a dwarven like little like monster that they kept, that we kept calling it a Pomeranian, even though it has like razor sharp teeth and burrows through holes and is like a fluffy like creature. It kept trying to bite chunks out of our legs and hiding in the holes in the basement. We eventually I think we kept joking about punting it. So we dealt with this like monster Pomeranian that was trying to hurt us, even though it wasn't a dog.
Did you actually kill it, or did you just like? We
had to, because it kept attacking us.
Knock it out.
And it was doing like a lot of damage. Yeah, no, we couldn't, because it was like I think the first thing we did try to do is like try to tame it, and then it like I think it did like 4d6, and we're like level 3.
I mean, yeah, that's a lot. I think if I was playing a character with the mind of taming it, that would just like steal my resolve. Like, we have to tame this thing. It's so cool. Oh,
absolutely. Like, if the party had met it now, and now that we have like Cade's character now has like 20,000 pets, and then we also have a druid in our party now, we would have absolutely tamed it. But back then we were like, this thing's going to kill us.
Also, the climate of fear around this like dragon probably didn't help.
Yeah, and eventually we do these chores, and he's like, okay, I have one last task for you. And we're like, oh, great. What the heck can this be? He's like, entertain me. I'm bored. Like, I'm just really bored. Can you do something, just a silly little goofy thing for me? And we're like, we're panicking. We're like, how the hell do we entertain a ancient red dragon? This thing has lived forever and seen everything. And also, fun little tidbit I forgot to mention that we found out about later. Apparently, it's the child of Tiamat in this universe.
Oh. So it's like the prime red, so essentially.
Yeah, wow. Bad boy can fuck us up. Bad boy can mess our party up so fast. Could mess everything up. The whole world, actually, if he just had motivation. But he just didn't. He was like, I'm bored. He's like, entertain me. So for some reason, we decided to take it back to where we lived in the campaign, which is like, there's an adventuring guild in the main city. That's where the Deus Guild is based. And
I've got my hand on my face right now. Like, why?
Yeah, no. So right. But the thing is there's this like, I don't want to say it's dorms, but basically the adventurers like stay in like the equivalent of like your full party stays in like a dorm kind of thing, but it's like a big one. So there's like a bunch of rooms, a kitchen, all the stuff. It's really cute because we actually got to like play Sims later on in the campaign with our D&D characters. It was kind of really fun. But we decided to take it back home. And he like shapeshifted into a prison and just walked on in. And our boss like immediately like mind messaged us and was like, what the hell are you doing? Like, why are you taking it here? This is so horrible. And we're like, it'll be fine. We just needed to entertain it. It'll be fine. And we ended up trying to play Truth or Dare.
Mm-hmm.
And it worked. It worked for a little bit. We also had an NPC like roommate character who didn't know that this was happening. So that was a fun little thing. But Felicity, Cade's character, right? This is probably the main reason why I went on this whole tangent about the story.
Goody.
Cade's character decided to start a little thing called book club. Cade's character is a water genasi paladin named Felicity. And Felicity, just out of nowhere, when we went to go do Truth or Dare, was like, I'm gonna go to book club. And we're like, what? Okay, sure, go to book club. Book club is code word for a party on the ship that she has. So they're partying their minds off. We're awkwardly stuck in a dorm playing Truth or Dare with this red dragon. For some reason, Felicity invited the NPC roommate to go to book club, just because she thought it'd be funny, not thinking about the dragon thing at all. But eventually, I think through like random messages and people getting bored or not people in game, like worrying about this ancient red dragon getting bored, somehow, some way, Red Dragon ended up at book club, and it went great because they actually were entertained. Because Felicity knew how to throw a good party. And then book clubs ended up becoming a party tradition. Dragon ended up going home after that. And later became a reoccurring NPC that we're like terrified to interact with that every so often we do work for.
Yeah, I mean, at that point...
Oh, also he's kind of spying on our group. As in, he gave Felicity like a necklace with a little orb on it that he's like, I could watch through this whenever I want, but not always, just kind of when I feel like it.
He's keeping you under his claw. This is what he's doing.
Yeah, he has the equivalent of a little TV that he can just like switch on and like watch what we're doing when he's bored.
I mean... Yeah, you bluffed your way into success there. Like that's...
We failed successfully, yes.
Yeah. I mean, you lived. I assume he paid you, right?
Oh, I think so, yeah.
Yeah, so...
Yes, we did get paid. We got paid a good amount. And then like later on, we did like an extra quest for later on and also got paid. So that's good.
Thanks for sharing. I love... I love when dragons are actually used in Dungeons and Dragons. A lot of times they're referred to, or they're literally just like fight it, kill it, move on. Having an NPC that's a dragon, especially an evil one, is kind of nice. Yeah, like even though at first we thought he was like kind of chill, even though he was evil, later on when we interacted with him like a second time, and at that point we had a dragonborn druid in our party who's now there. And we realized how crappily he was treating that character. And now we're like, oh, wait, he is a bad person. Oh. So it's fun to see. It's good to see an NPC that's like reoccurring, even though they're not the best, but like still well played. Yeah, I appreciate that. Because like as a player, I haven't actually encountered a lot of dragons in Dungeons and Dragons. And like when I have, the couple times that I have like, in one game, it was like, oh, there was a disguised, I think, silver dragon that was like a wizard helping us out. And I'm like, that was pretty cool, except that like he got killed really quick. And then he got killed helping us fight a black dragon that then we got to fight, but only when it was at half health. And I was like, no, I want to find it at full health. I wanted to have the full experience here. And then, which was like, I mean, that's just me being whiny. Like, it was a very good storytelling moment. And then, like, I fought, like, wormlings and dragon adjacent things. Like, there was a dragon turtle once. There was... Yeah, dragon turtle. Drakes and wyverns. But very few dragons. So, like, when I had an opportunity one time to run a one-shot, I was like, let's just do a dungeon with a dragon. Let's fucking do it. Yes. But I was like, I don't want them to know. I don't want my players to know that they're going to fight a dragon. I want that to be a surprise. So what I ended up making was, in this world of this one shot, there are 4 elemental temples, one of each. And the first, each one has like a compound name. The first word of the name is a phase of the moon, essentially. So like, you know how there's like there's half moon, and full moon, new moon. And then there's also like a gibbon and crescent moon.
Yeah.
So like the temple they were going to was the Gibbon Flared Temple. And it's like this, it's not it's a little clunky and inelegant, but it was a one shot. I didn't really care.
Or I mainly laughed because I heard, or like giggled because I heard gibbon and I thought of the monkey.
Yeah, that's the problem with that. Is it's also a monkey.
I didn't know that it was also a monkey until like you just mentioning it though. So you learn something new every day.
No worries. But like what I did was I created a custom volcano dungeon. It was like Mount Plume. It was inside a lake of lava, essentially. This volcano, like a very steep. And like the only way to get there is either via like the air, which the player characters didn't have access to, or they could go on this like little path, this trail that goes on top, or they could take a secret passage underneath the lake of lava. And so they figured out from the quest giver that there's a secret passage. So they have to work their way and clear out all the elementals in this place, because it was like a monk's order. Like they were elemental monks, right? And they got like wiped out, and only a few of them were able to escape. Like one of the elders, and then like a bunch of the students, essentially the not very good at fighting, what do you call apprentices or acolytes, I guess. They were able to escape because they were kind of like too, green behind the ears to actually like defend the temple against these elementals. But essentially what the guy said was, the actual elder before me was essentially fighting a genie or an ifrit. Ooh. Right. So like the fight, like literally a dude made of fire element, from that plane shows up, summons a bunch of elementals, basically ransacking the temple and killing everybody. And he's like, I was instructed to evacuate the young ones, and I don't know what happened. I would go back, but I mean, assuming the worst, I won't be enough to stop them. I need help. So the adventurers go through this secret passage. They go from the bottom level and up. It's like 6 levels, like vertically. And in the center is the caldera, like the inner tube of it. Yeah. And there's like every map you can kind of see another sort of you're going up the tube. And like it was very cool. And I'm like, this is going to be really cool, because once they get to the top, they meet like there's all sorts of like fire adjacent creatures they meet. Like there's mephits. Like magma nephits, magmins, which are from the monster manual. There's a special creature that actually Jess Jackdaw created called the Slagund, which is like a griffin fire thing.
Yes! Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I put one of those in. It was like basically the pet of the temple.
That is so good.
And then there was like salamanders, which are from the plane of fire and everything. As they go up, they do meet like an oracle, a half dragon, like a gold half dragon, who basically just sort of lives there sometimes. And she had been, quote unquote, imprisoned in her temple by the Ifrit. But she revealed, like, I could leave at any time. I was sort of just waiting for some people to come along to see what would happen. I'm not really trapped here, but if you need a place to rest, you can. He doesn't come in here. He doesn't give a shit about me, so you can rest here. So it was like a little waypoint for them. But essentially, they get to the top, and they find out that the quest giver was lying to them. The Ifrit is actually a prince from the plane of fire named Hazim. And Hazim has been trapped in one of those bottles, genie in a bottle type situation for thousands of years. Torvald, the monk that found him, that guy who like evacuated with everybody, he found the bottle, summoned Hazim from it, and wished for him to destroy the elder so that he could take his place. Out of jealousy, it was a power grab, right? He's like, "Ooh, this is my chance." Well, Hazim was like, "Oh, sure, I'll kill that guy, and then I'll kill him too, because fuck him." Because he could do that if he wants. Yeah. And like was going to just, kill the elder, then kill Torvald, and then fuck off to the plane of fire. But the problem was his actual armor, the Ifrit armor, which is also in the Dungeon Master's Guide. was locked away in an adamantine chest that's been magically enchanted and sealed at the top of the volcano's like caldera, like the opening, right?
Yeah.
And so he's been, it is so magically enchanted that he himself, even with his power of wish, cannot open it. It needs its key. And he's had the elementals searching the temple for the key. And he would search himself, except, and he was trying to tell the party this when they reached him, that there is a red dragon that has had her eye on this place. Now that it's been cleared out of monks, she wants this to be her lair. So she's been showing up, doing drive-by like fire breath blasts. And the Ifrit's been, you know, the Ifrit is made of fire, so it's immune to the fire breath. So they're basically like, it's a wash every time. Like they can't really, as long as the Ifrit's there, this dragon, whose name was Lydiax, can't actually take the lair. So he's been able to defend it, but he's like, look, all I want is my armor. Then I'll be gone. But he didn't actually tell the players like that the dragon was around. He was saying, look, if you found the key, which they did, and open the chest, I will take what's mine. That's my birthright. I will plane shift away. And then all the elementals will be gone. I'll be out of your hair, which is true. He would actually have done that if they had cooperated.
All the elementals would be gone.
They wanted to fight. So they fought him, and he softened them up a little bit. They were really strong, though. I was surprised with how strong they were. And so he was going to plane shift away. But before he did, he called out in a booming voice, Lydiax, you may have your lair. And they were like, Lydiax, who's that? And then they hear in the distance, like this dragon roar, and they were able to actually defeat Hazim. They killed him before he could plane shift away.
Oh, dang.
And then they had an adult red dragon perched down, like, finally, like, oh shit. So she's like, oh, there's a few people here that I need to clear out still. That's all that's left. I could do that. So she beat the shit out of them. It was so fun to play an adult red dragon at full health against this tired party as they like went through this whole fire temple to get to the top. And even still, even like knocking out several of the players, they still managed to beat her.
Oh my gosh.
And it was like the perfect like ending. Like they, throughout all that, were able to best the dragons. They defeated an Ifrit, a fucking noble from the Plane of Fire. Yeah. They defeated an adult red dragon, not an ancient, right? But still, like that's still hard. And I think they were all like level 8 too. So like that's pretty hard for level 8 characters. And then they found out about Torvald's treachery, and this like tiefling, this red like tiefling, you know, fire resistance, all still in the theme of fire. She was like the sort of only like sort of lieutenant, I guess, ranked monk that survived. She basically gets to take control over the temple, with Torvald now like imprisoned in dwarf prison, because they're in like the mountains, so it's like a dwarf kingdom where this temple's located. And Mesa, then the tiefling, can be like taught how to become an actual master by the oracle, like the gold dragon or gold half dragon person that's just chilling out in the oracle's tower is now going to teach her. So like new leadership, a new age for this temple, and hey, a big ass dragon that was plaguing the region is also taken care of. So yeah, I was really proud of this one shot. It was like a lot of fun, and it felt fulfilling because I tried to put enough puzzles in there to be interesting, different types of enemies, but still keep it themed fire, quote unquote theme.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
And I felt like I wanted to share that because you were talking about a red dragon. I'm like, that's the only red dragon I think I've ever encountered was one I made.
Yeah, no, I feel like your story was a lot more engaging than mine. I was like,
the thing is, though, like I have a folder of art assets I pulled up for the story, so I'm looking at it like, that was their name, right? Oh, cool. And I'm like, I'll send you some of the art or something later so you can check it out.
Oh my gosh,
that was like
awesome, though.
Yeah, and by the way, I said it was a one shot. I lied. That was like 6 sessions.
Like the 1 shot turned 4 shot, 6 shot.
Yeah, and I think I told that story before on my channel in some episode some time ago. But like I was telling it. What's that?
I just said, hey, like, why not?
Yeah. But I think my context too was like, this is one of those times where you promise like I think I promised like a 2 or 3 shot actually, so half the length, and it ended up being twice of what I wanted it to be, but it was still contained, and like there was an end goal, get to the top of the volcano, like, so it was always in sight what to do. It was never like a mystery where they needed to go next. It didn't turn into a campaign. It was still a enclosed adventure that kind of went long. But
oh
I
my
always
gosh.
wanted to do something like that. I was really glad I got to.
Heck yeah. Oh my gosh. I know one of the few times I DM'd, I had the experience of 1 shot, turn 2 shot, turn 3 shot. But also like we basically tried playing D&D on like a trip that was not ideal for playing D&D. Like we played it in between breaks of stuff that we had going on. And then we ended up just finishing the end of the game at someone's house after the whole trip was done. But like that was fun. I will always remember that. It was like a 1920s like Clue murder mystery kind of 1 shot. I don't remember all the exact plot details because it was a while ago, but I just remember people seemed to have a lot of fun, and I got to pretend to be a lot of people because I got to make up some characters that were like simple but like effective for that kind of thing, because it's like diversions and puzzles, and then like oops, one of them's actually evil, but you don't know which one yet till like end of 3-shot combat, I guess.
Right. Yeah, I really there's an art to it, I think, making a 1 shot that's like engaging.
Yes.
Or even not just a 1 shot, because that's a bit limiting. But like an enclosed adventure, that's only a few sessions long.
Exactly. Like people that can successfully run a 1 shot and like have it feel like contained, like wrapped up in a bow, content, happy. That's just like a whole nother level of skill, which is like people who DM or forever DMs, which I hate. I don't like using that term, but like I'm gonna say that. Like respect. Like if you couldn't tell, I like playing D&D more than running it. But at the same time, like the person who makes the whole thing is like, that's the person that makes the whole game worthwhile. And when someone can like properly make a 1 shot and like I feel happy or I feel like I had a blast at the end of it, like that's what makes it worth it. Like there's one shot I'm thinking of like right now that happened recently with oh my gosh, Critcrab and a few other folks. That was just
I saw.
It was oh my gosh.
I didn't see it. I saw it on, because I had your channel pulled up for like reference, and I saw that there was like, oh, who was in this? Okay, it was Critcrab DM'd, and oh, I know like all these people. That's crazy.
Yeah, it was like a whole gang. It was like Dieter, Fallen Monk, Critcrab, and oh my gosh, Plain and Simple, and it was way too much fun compared to what I thought. Like, I originally went and I was like, okay, like, I want to just play D&D with some folks I haven't before, and these people seem nice. And then by the end of it, I was like, this was really fun. We were just, like, small crime dudes. That's just how that went.
I mean, it sounds similar. You can tell me if I'm right or wrong on this, but it sounds similar to a certain Florida-themed game that we played in.
It's very similar to the Florida theme, except imagine if the tallest person was like, I think he was 5 foot exactly. Everyone else was like shorter. Imagine smaller Florida men. Then that's basically what we were.
It's interesting you said that, because this is really cool. I played in a Star Wars 5e game. And yeah, that was like a lot of fun, like that lasted a little bit, but the DM for this was Puffin Forest.
Yes, I vaguely saw that online before. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yes.
I was Obliax, the littlest of them all, the Babu freak of the group. And
yes!
I was so excited that he decided to like tell that story. I was like, oh, sweet, because they like 2 people decided to be the bunny folk. I forgot what they were called. And it was like, oh, so they're small creatures. And then another player wanted to be someone from the planet of General Akbar or Admiral Akbar, like the Mon Calamari, but like a little octopus person that lives there. And I was like, So I looked at the races available, and there was all like the smallest size was small, so like, you know, typical. But then I was like, wait a minute, no, there's one that's smaller. It's tiny size. It's Anzelin. That means I'm the size of like, you know, like a oh, what do they call it, an amiibo or something, or maybe a little bit bigger than that, you know?
Yeah.
And I'm like, what if I was a really powerful Force user, like more powerful than Yoda, but that tiny? How cool would that be? And I'm like, you know what? Let's also be evil. Let's be like a little tyrant. This would be fun.
Let's be a small tyrant, man. Absolutely.
So when we found out that everyone was playing a small or smaller sized creature, we were like, oh, it's small supremacy. Like, we're going to...
Oh my gosh, absolutely.
Yeah, it's like basically anytime we found someone like, hey, how tall are they? If they were above 4 feet, we generally didn't trust them. Yeah.
Yeah, immediately.
Our ship ended up taking on, like, we had a bunch of Ewoks. We had these like lava people from Mustafar that were like little lizard creatures. They had to live in the engine room because it was warmer than the rest of the ship.
Yeah.
It was like, it was so cool to just play with that. And then, like, you know, Ben had his story that he wanted to tell. And so we were like doing that too. But at the same time, underlying all of the like the big plot stuff, we were just like, hold on, how tall are they? Okay, we're going to help them.
Absolutely.
We're going to go out of our way because...
Okay, yeah, we're going to help them. Oh, they're tall. No rights. Absolutely. You know, disrespect. Like, you're on thin ice. Like...
Yeah, that was so much fun. So, like, I totally feel the playing a party of small people is so much fun.
Like, playing smaller characters that are, like, impracticably small. It's just fun. Like, you can... I don't know. Like, there's not really much different besides just, like, the vibe of playing, like, a normally, like, tall, medium height character versus just, like, a small little gremlin. It's
similar in the joy of playing a large person, I think. Just having an extreme size discrepancy is super fun.
Yeah, it's like inconvenient, but funny, and also just, like, you get to just, I don't know, like... It's just neat.
There's also a lot of advantages to being small.
There are a lot of advantages.
Like, people don't really... I mean, it's people who like to play big characters. Like, first of all, of course it's fun to be 7 feet tall and, like, tower over the big bad guy who was, like, tall at 6'5" or whatever, but is looking up at you, you know, like, of course that feels great. And also being able to, like, carry anything the group needs you to carry and being sort of the pack mule or exactly, like the muscle. But consider how fun it is to ride another party member.
Yes.
Or just, like, hell, having a mount that's, like, more manageable with their size, you know, because, like, if you're small size, your mount can be medium, which is just the size of any other person. So, like, you could be a gnome riding a dog.
Yeah, I was thinking dog, and I didn't say it out loud, but I like that we were both on the same wavelength of just, like, you can have a dog.
Right, yeah, and that's your mount, and like, it works.
You can charge into battle on your dog.
And besides, like, mechanical stuff like that, it's just fun being short and then also being powerful. Like, that's a cool...
It is very
juxtaposition.
Fun. Yeah, or even like oh my gosh, in that one shot I played not a Kenku, a flightless Aarakocra, the bird people, just because I thought that'd be a little funny, and also because I had heard there was a TikTok audio that was like, you just triggered my fight or flight. And I'm a flightless bird. And it just...
I've seen that, yeah.
That gave me an idea when making a character. I was like, what if they're just like a flightless bird? But they're 3 foot tall, and being a rogue that's 3 foot tall is very fun because I can just hide all over the place. And then just pop out and be a small bird in a big hat.
Right, and because... you are a dex-based thing.
Exactly.
And you're using finesse with your weapons and stuff. You're never going to need to worry about, like, oh, I'm too small to wield this heavy weapon. Why would you need that? You're a rogue. You're good. Use a dagger if you must, you know? Like,
yeah. Oh my gosh. Being too tiny to use a... Oh, I never thought about that till just now. The whole, like... The, like, mechanics of, like, how intense is this heavy weapon? Can you hold it? Oh my gosh. Yeah. If you couldn't tell, I haven't played a character that's had to deal with that yet, or it's been, like, homebrewed, so it's been okay. So, yeah, oh my gosh.
It's a lot of fun, and especially, like, I don't know what character I'm going to play next in like whatever game I end up playing, and who knows when that'll be. But I've been looking at halfling and gnome and kobold and goblin too, and just thinking like I should play something like small again, because I like to play humans a lot. That bonus feat, it's just too good to pass up
every time
sometimes.
I've seen that, though, I've always just been like, but what if I did this instead? Because there's so many times where, like, I've seen a more opportune, like, stat choice in D&D and just been a little bit stupid and been like, but pretty colored tiefling, or hee ASMR, or I don't know, like I need to play a variant human at some point, because every time I've been like, I can do this, I'm like, but what if? Then it's like, oh my god, there was at one point my friend who was like thinking about doing a one shot. I was like, oh, what if I just had this like character be kind of like, I don't know, like horror themed or something, and then I like looked at it and I was like, Dampier is a thing. What if I just, instead of adding spice, what if I just changed the recipe? Like, no, very human is extremely valid. I'm just not smart in my character building.
well, I mean, if even from a non-mechanical standpoint, like, I think a lot of people, so something I've come to understand and accept is that some people just like to play weird races that don't look like people. That's totally valid and cool. I get it. Like, I know a lot of people who just like to play tabaxis. Yeah. That's like every character they play is a tabaxi of some kind, you know? Or, you know, people who just like more monstrous looking things. Furbulge, you know, a Kenku or an Aarakocra, or some sort of like animal looking thing, right? Like, I get it. I totally get it. I like playing humans because, to me, even though it seems boring to a lot of folks who like those more interesting races, to me, a human is a blank slate that could be anything you want. A human can look like anything, you know? I guess with, like, for example, elves. It is not necessarily ironclad that this is the case, but most people understand that elves are generally thin, tall, like, beardless, especially like hairless, the males don't,
lanky, like graceful, and only
with like, a lot of pointy features generally, like a lot of like pointy chins and cheekbones and stuff like that. Like, I mean, now does that mean every elf has to subscribe to that aesthetic? No, of course not. But like, that is sort of a generally understood kind of idea about elves. And then the same could be said for like dwarves, where it's like,
you think they're just Scottish.
Most people think dwarves are just like,
or they have
really
a Scottish accent,
squat stout,
not anything against Scottish people.
Squat Scots.
They're like, okay, small beard, red hair, and I don't know, like there's those assumptions, but with like human, you can do whatever.
Right. Yeah. And like, so, I mean, and that's really what it comes down to for me, is like, I can make a human that looks like Conan the Barbarian. Right, who's built like a brick shit house and is just like, you know, Arnold Schwarzenegger from the 80s looking, and I could have the same race and it be like this frail like female like sorceress who does fire magic but can't really do anything else, you know, and like it has very low strength. Or it could be like an old man who was a shoe cobbler, and for some reason he is now an adventurer, right? Like, all that stuff, like there's such a wild disparity between aesthetics with humans because they could be anything.
Exactly,
to me, yeah. Like, to me, it's like, well, okay, so I don't get dark vision, but like someone's gonna have dark vision. I don't need to have it. You know what I mean? Like, it's okay that I don't have dark vision.
That is, that's kind of what our party, like in the Midlands game, was in the beginning. Nobody had dark vision except for like me, because I was playing an ASMR just conveniently, and at that time, like, everyone was just like, another person's gonna have dark vision, and it just, like, I was so tempted to just not do ASMR for a little bit, so it would have been really funny if none of us did, though.
I mean, hey, like, that makes things a little bit more scary when you're in the dark.
It makes things more scary, yeah. Like, I'm tempted to just play one that doesn't have dark vision, just because, or just a character in general that doesn't have it, But it's every single time I've been to build a character, it's like, oh, okay, so I can just either like have this spell or it's a racial ability. Oh, okay, cool. I'm just gonna like do that, and then like, why? I should make things harder for myself. Why?
Yeah, I mean, but also like a lot of times people misplay dark vision too.
Yeah, there's also that. Oh my gosh, or people that are like, I have dark vision, so I can see everything. And then there's sometimes where like the DM's purposely like, there's magical darkness. People are like, that's not a thing.
I do attribute that to like DMs not knowing all the different like environmental, I guess, effects. Like, for example, cover a lot of times isn't used.
Yeah.
Or obscured, like something lightly obscured versus heavily obscured. There's only like 2 versions of obscured. There's not like another version. So it's not like that much to remember, but a lot of DMs just don't really implement that. And so when people are like, how do I make my combats more exciting? It's like, well, how come everybody's like fighting in a very like open area without any elevation or like environmental things, you know? Like that's what makes like a sort of combat more exciting, I would say.
Yeah, it makes it more exciting. And then also like one thing that I hate, that fact that like it seems strange to do it, but one thing that has made combat more interesting is like involving talking in it every so often.
Yeah.
Like just like talking to another player or something, like well, not like having a full-blown conversation obviously, because it's like 6 seconds is your turn, but like there's sometimes people who are like, we're entering combat and we just can't say anything to each other for the next like hour or 2. It's like, no, like,
yeah, well,
interact.
Talking should like, you should be role playing while you do the combat like that.
Yeah,
and
it's not like the game flips, like it's still the same game.
Right, especially like, as a DM too. Like you should be having, if it's an intelligent enemy, they should be saying something or doing something that gives them more personality than just like, all right, what's your AC again? 15? Yeah, that'll hit. And like, you know, because like then you're just going through the motions at that point. Also, adding stakes to a combat that's not just defeat the enemy. Right?
Yes.
Like,
oh my god, absolutely. When they put a time constraint on it, because something's going to happen in a couple turns, that makes it so much more stressful and interesting.
Oh, I did that. I did that too.
It is so good
recently. Yeah.
Or when there's a time constraint, but like you don't know it. Like the DM secretly has a timer set, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, like that's been a thing that's been used before. It's not as effectively as in like you have this many turns, because that one's like directly stress. But like there's been a few times where like at the beginning of a session our DM has set a timer and like, you know, kept like adjusted differently for when combat's a thing, but when that timer goes off it's just like, oh, this happens, and then you're like, what? Like, yeah. There's a world-ending travesty happening right now. Well, and like we could have like, we're plotting and figuring out how to fix it now, but like it's set to go off. Like what?
Right. Like, yeah. And I think it's important too, if you're a dungeon master, you kind of have a toolkit here. Like, let's say there's a timer on something happening. If the consequences of this thing are going to be very, very bad, or like they're going to affect like not just the party, but like everybody around, like you need to forecast it somehow, right? And if it's like really bad, it might not be a bad thing to give them a turn timer so that they could understand how much time they have left. Or at the very least, like you could give them, if it's not super obvious, give them a check they can make to then give them that information. If they get high enough, like you think it could be within this amount of turns, essentially. So like it's still, because then it's still scary, because it's like, they can't waste time, because like, yeah, it might be in 6 turns, but it might be in 4 turns if it's 4 to 6. So it's like, you kind of have to play as if it's going to happen in 4 turns.
Exactly. It's those extra stakes. It just makes the game more interesting.
I did something recently actually for that, where there was an enemy encounter, and the stakes were like, this enemy didn't really care about the party. Like they didn't want to defeat the party, but they were doing some shit to like innocent people. And one person in particular was like a commoner. So, you know, commoners in the book have like 4 hit points.
Yeah.
They're very, very squishy. And this commoner in particular had more, but it didn't matter because this thing had been draining their maximum hit points over time.
Oh my gosh.
So it was at, like, the commoner was at 0. But for me, just because you're at 0, like, with your maximum down, I'm running a different kind of like homebrew rules where if you're at 0 but not dying, then you are technically staggered. So through some magical mumbo jumbo, this commoner was unconscious but stable. However, if their constitution isn't so great, so if like they go down by 1 more hit point but beneath 0, they're just done. Like they can't do it. Yeah.
Hey, you're done.
What the cleric did was they cast Aid on the commoner.
Oh my god, I need to use that spell more. Oh.
Yeah, which, it's very niche because you're like, why does it matter to put like 5 extra hit points on your maximum? Like, why wouldn't you just do temporary hit points like a false light thing? But like, this is exactly what this commoner needed, because by casting Aid on them, they suddenly had 5 hit points that they didn't have. So when they were fighting the enemy that was like now trying to drain them each round, they had a timer baked in. They knew how many hit points this person had, so they knew exactly how many turns it was going to take before this person was going to die. Because every turn they were draining 1 hit point. So like they needed to finish this thing off within that, so like sometimes there are ways you can bake it into the thing without it feeling like you're giving them too much. It's more like, hey, shit's going to go down if you don't handle this somehow.
And it's like, it's not like you're giving them the hope and the opportunity to get it done, and then you're like secretly like, they'll never be able to do it. It's like you're giving them a chance, and it's going to happen if they don't do it, but you also know it's going to happen if they do it. Like, I just think that's fun. Like when you can tell that the DM's not like secretly being like, this is how I get my players. They're going to lose no matter what they do. And then I feel like I just like made their characters feel bad. Like, no.
You don't want to be an antagonist in like
absolutely
real
not.
life. You want to present like a challenge. So So like in this scenario, like I didn't really tell them what the nature of this like ritual was. Like, so one of the characters is like a doctor, like literally like a healer with a healer feat. And I combined it with the other, like the medic feat essentially. So they kind of get all that stuff in one feat. And they're also clerics. So they go up to try and figure out what's wrong with this commoner. Well, I know that they do not have any magic strong enough to cure them of what's going on. I had given them a scroll of a spell that could have helped them, but then they used it up. So beforehand on something else, so they didn't have access to that. So I didn't want my healer character to feel useless. And I'm like, it's a really good thing that they decided to be a healer, because they have a spell prepared that while it cannot just win the day, it can buy them time. And I wanted them to feel like they had something that could actually help. And so that's what Aid did, which was really cool.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I love uniquely using spells like that. It makes combat more worthwhile when you're able to like use that one niche spell. Like, there's so many good cleric spells that I just haven't touched, but I like want to use, like ceremony. People don't talk about how funny it would be to just like get two people that like cast ceremony on them, and then like they get a benefit like when they're together. And there's also like you can just like bless water and make it holy water just out of nowhere with that spell. I didn't realize that till like last session, and like I made a joke because one of our characters is a water genasi. Paladin, so it was a little funny, but yeah, no, it's just, using spells like that, it just makes it more fun.
It does. And like rewarding your players for being creative is a lot of fun too.
Yes. My gosh,
I also think there is something to be said of having things already sort of written down beforehand, like this is the way to beat this, but being open to like thinking outside the box. Like, would something I didn't consider be able to do something to this, even though I didn't write it down? Like sometimes it's important to,
those unplanned moments can just be like accidentally sometimes the most iconic things of an entire game, depending on what happens,
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But it seems like we're reaching past an hour and a half here.
Yeah.
This has been a really fun conversation. We talked about a lot of different things.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
Can you tell our audience where they can find you?
Yes. So you can find me on YouTube. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, and also TikTok, but I don't really post much actual relevant D&D stuff there. But if you can just search Tori Draws stuff, and my stuff should show up.
Hell yeah.
That's where you can find me. And also, if you want, you can look up Violarune to find that EP I made.
Go check out Violarune. That's
on Apple Music, Spotify, and other streaming services. It's on a whole bunch of them.
That's super duper cool. Please go check that out. Go check out Tori Draws stuff. Thank you, Tori, for being on.
No problem. Thank you for having me.